Cast of the college basketball season. North Carolina finishes their lone exhibition game of the year with a 101-40 victory over Johnson C. Smith. Come on in, join us. It's going to be a big old time right here on Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, welcome in. So glad you're here to join us right after the immediate aftermath of Carolina's victory over Johnson C. Smith, their lone exhibition game of the year. And Rob M says it right off of the gate. I'm going to post this up here. Rob says, not great competition, but the boys looked scary good tonight. And Rob, you are right on. And keep in mind, folks, we learned just before tip-off tonight that four Tar Heels in the rotation would not be playing tonight, including starting point guard RJ Davis, who is dealing with a sprained right hand. We did learn that if it had been regular season, he would have gone. It's just a precautionary measure. And so Stay Vigilant just hopped in and said, why didn't Davis play? And so that's the news there. RJ Davis didn't play because he's got officially a sprained right hand. Also, Puff Johnson didn't suit up tonight. He's been dealing with a knee injury. And there's some concern about that because you'll recall Puff Johnson missed the last half of his freshman season, the first half of last season, and hasn't really done anything this preseason. Is that precautionary? Is it legitimately he can't go? You hate this for Puff Johnson that he continues to not be able to play. Hopefully he will be ready, 10 days from now when Carolina finally starts the regular season on November 7th. You love that. Two other Tar Heels didn't play tonight. That's Jalen Washington, as expected, as he is still rehabbing and getting into game shape after all his high school knee injuries and surgeries. And so you're waiting for that. Additionally, you had all that news, and you really, the biggest concern is that RJ Davis is okay, but you have to expect that he will be. So the initial thought was that the starter in his place would either be DeMarco Dunn and Seth Trimble, and it was DeMarco Dunn with a little bit more experience getting the nod in the starting lineup there, and so that's how that went. In terms of some of the numbers, this is ridiculous. Let's just start here. Armando Bacot played 23 minutes of this game and had 20 rebounds in 23 minutes. That's right. Almost averaged a rebound a minute and came out with about 14 to go in the second half. His career high is 22 rebounds, which he did several times last season, and he would have easily eclipsed that. Again, consider the opponent, all of that news, but Armando's doing everything you want him to do. Caleb Love led all scorers with 20 points. That's what I'm looking for from him. 7 for 14 from the floor, 4 for 9 from 3. Here's the most important thing that Caleb Love did. You ready for this? 8 assists and just 2 turnovers. And here's why I say that's so important. Coming into today, like if you watched or listened to today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels, one of the big things I talked about was my big hope was to see Caleb Love's efficiency. Would he be better with decision making and things like that? And so to come out with 4 3-pointers in the first half and to have those 8 assists, you love to see that, especially with RJ out of the lineup. And so, it's ridiculous. And everyone's saying it in the comments right here, all these things. This team is so deep. Michael Daniel says, we are loaded. Fletcher Barber says, man, this team is deep. And so there you go. There's a couple things in the comments, like Stay Vigilant here says, I'm worried about Nance shooting too. And yeah, if you watched Pete Nance's 3-point shot tonight, it is pretty flat, not much arc on Pete Nance's shot, but he's got great touch around the rim. Did eventually connect from deep, was 1 of 5 from 3. And Nance's final line was great. He finishes the second leading scorer, 19 points, 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds in 27 minutes. In fact, he played more than anyone else on the team. You love that. You love to see that. A couple things for me. Let's just start getting into this. By the way, if you have questions you would like for me to answer, please drop those in. Would love to see that. Coffee and kilos, you're right. Love to see those assists from Caleb. And here's the bottom line right here. Ronnie Askew says this: good to see them handle business the way they should. And that's right. One of the things that you need to see is not, are they going to win this game? They're going to win this game. But how are they going to win this game? Is Carolina going to execute and compete and do the stuff they need to do to win, even against an inferior opponent? And that's exactly what they did. For example, not only did Caleb Love knock down 4 threes, have 20 points, those 8 assists, right before his second three-pointer, you saw him dive on the floor in an exhibition game for a loose ball, corralled it, later in the possession, got it back, hit his second 3, and then I think the very next time down the floor, hit his third 3. That is the head of the snake doing what he needs to do, especially when RJ is out. And so if you're just tuning in, by the way, 4 Tar Heels out tonight: Justin McKoy with a non-COVID illness, RJ Davis sprained right hand, Puff Johnson right knee soreness, and Jalen Washington obviously still rehabbing. And boy, this team looked ready to go. They look locked in. Okay, so Ronald Chung wants to know, what was the Tar Heels' three-point percentage? Ronald Day shot 11 for 35 for the game, 31%. And so there is your number there, 31%. Here's a great question from Fletcher Barber. Has Nickel earned himself more minutes? And let me talk about my man Tyler, the self-proclaimed 4-level scorer from Virginia, leading scorer in Virginia history. Pretty insane to see those numbers when you think about all of the great competition that's come before him. Most of the offseason, I've been saying, listen, Tyler Nickel is a walking bucket. He's going to come off the bench and give you microwave offensive production. And I feel no different about that. He's doing exactly that. In fact, tonight he had, let me look back at Nickel's stat line here, 2 for 5 from the field, both of which were threes, 3 for 4 from the free throw line. So he finishes with 9 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal in 16 minutes and no turnovers. Honestly, that's about all you can ask and hope for from a freshman in the first time against an opponent in the Smith Center in front of a lot of fans. And so Tyler Nickel, has he earned himself more minutes? You know what? Absolutely, he's earned himself more minutes, Fletcher Barber. I'm right with you there. But here's where I had been down on Nickel, is saying, listen, I don't think Tyler Nickel's defense is up to par, and that's going to keep him on the bench. Now, tonight he got all those minutes in an exhibition game. He showed out in live action, showed out in the blue-white scrimmage. Everything I've heard about the secret scrimmage with Rutgers last week is that he had a great performance, and you love to see what he did with that. And so, absolutely, I think Nickel is doing enough defensively where he is going to earn those minutes and be playing. So that's a great question, and I'm on it. So let me get back to some of the things I wanted to make sure to say, and then we're going to come back and take some questions. I'm officially starting to get worried about Puff. For those of you that have been tuned in for the whole show already, you heard me say that at the beginning. Missed half of each of his first 2 seasons, hasn't really played this preseason, and so thankfully Pete Nance came. If Pete Nance hadn't been here, the hope was that Puff would start at the 4. But man, you'd be in a bad place right now if that was the case. So thankfully, Pete Nance is here, especially, Jalen Washington not ready to go yet. Man, you certainly hope everything is okay with RJ. No, and here's why I love keeping him out of tonight. We heard that he should play in the first regular season game, assuming he doesn't have any setbacks. But with this team, this loaded and the expectations, Carolina's not playing for non-conference wins. Carolina is playing for a national championship at the end of the season. And so you don't need RJ Davis to play tonight. You need RJ Davis to play whenever he's ready. If that means you take some L's in the non-conference portion of the schedule, so be it, so that you have 100% of RJ Davis when you need him. Here's the other thing. Long-term for the depth of the team, if RJ is going to be out for a little bit, that means more minutes for DeMarco Dunn, who didn't have a lot of playing time last year and who quite frankly looked more confident and comfortable tonight than I have ever seen him before. And secondly, excuse me, it means more playing time for Seth Trimble, a freshman who, wow, showed off his athleticism in multiple ways tonight. You love to see that. I'm going to grab a drink. Forgive me. Okay, next thing that keep in mind, Boogie Fland, class of 24, was on hand for an official visit tonight. And so that's good. Hopefully folks got to see him and say, come be a Tar Heel. Next, all you can ask the team to do in this scenario is to execute and dominate and stay locked in. And that's exactly what the Tar Heels did. In fact, here's an example. Excuse me. The Tar Heels had a 25-0 run through the midpoint of the second half, finished the final 12 minutes of the game on a 33-4 run, and that's after the starters route. Bacot went out with about 14 left, and so over those final 12 minutes of the game, 33-4 run for the Tar Heels. And so that is insane right there. By the way, raise your hand if you would have guessed coming in, 24 hours ago, if I had asked you to name who's going to score the first points of this exhibition game, who would have said DeMarco Dunn? Nobody. I can almost guarantee you that. But DeMarco Dunn started the scoring with a free throw, got the start for injured RJ Davis. And Fletcher says in here, surprised that Dunn got the start over Styles. The reason for that is that you want a more pure backcourt. And so getting Caleb Love and DeMarco Dunn out there together gives you that. With Styles being more of a 3, a wing, that's why Dunn would get the start there. Now, I love what I saw of Dunn right out of the gate. Not only did he get that free throw, got a defensive tie-up out on the left wing. We've heard Coach Davis talk a lot about his defensive capability, and Dunn showed that off right there, and you love to see it. But then Seth Trimble was the first person off the bench. He promptly got a steal with Johnson C. Smith trying to push ahead, intercepted the pass. And then on the other side of the court, after Carolina inbounded, had a nice dump off to Nance for a little push shot in the lane. So Seth Trimble right out of the gate showed what he can do, had a really nice athletic dunk, had a great drive to the hole in traffic, showing off that athleticism that we've heard all about. You love to see how Seth Trimble handled himself in his first game. Here is his stat line: 11 points on 5 of 6 shooting. Wow, the only shot he missed was his lone 3-point attempt. Had 1 for 1 from the free throw line, 2 rebounds, 5 assists. Great. 2 turnovers. I mean, it's not 0, but 5 assists, 2 turnovers, not bad. Had a block and a steal, and played 23 minutes. So you love to see that from Seth Trimble there. Way to go, Seth, in that first game. We've already talked about Caleb Love getting on the floor in an exhibition game. That's fantastic. We also got our first look, obviously with RJ Davis out. We knew that we would see a lot of Caleb Love. And so when Caleb Love went to the bench, we got our first look at a DeMarco Dunn, Seth Trimble backcourt, and they did well. And quite frankly, in that stretch, Armando Bacot was the only starter on the floor. I believe it was Nickel and Dontrez Styles out there with them in that moment. Listen, Carolina just, again, it's an inferior opponent, but they did everything they needed to do. Came out. There was one stretch, like a couple minutes into the first half, where there was some defense, lack of communication, led to a wide open shot for Johnson C. Smith. Coach Davis took a timeout at that point, and that was great. But Carolina, outside of that, Carolina led the rebounding 30-10 at the half. And so, wow, that is great news there. Let's look at some of the other stat things that we saw. Here's something that you might not have guessed. Dontrez Styles, 7 points, but finished with 10 rebounds. 10 rebounds for Dontrez Styles in this game, in a game where Carolina, oh, I'm just seeing this stat for the first time. 63 rebounds for the Tar Heels to 26 rebounds for Johnson C. Smith. Wow. The Tar Heels had 23 assists on 39 field goals. That's a nice percentage there. Grab a drink real quick. Excuse me. Tar Heels shot exactly 50% in the game, 39 of 78, 31% from the three-point line, 70.6% from the free throw line. That's great. Okay, I want to get in and go through and see some of your questions and see what we can answer here. If you got questions, put them in the chat and I'll make sure to get them up. Joey Inman, love this question. Done to be a quasi Nate Britt for the squad this year? You know what? I think he can be. When Coach Pat Kilby and I did our preseason previews all throughout the year, all throughout the summer. If you haven't seen those, there's a playlist for them on the Locked On Tar Heels page. Make sure you check that out. One of the things we said is we weren't sure how much time Dunn would get that this year. And that was earlier this summer. But as the summer's progressed, man, he has shown himself and proven himself to be ready to go. And so, man, I thought that Trimble would, through the course of the season, outpace him in a huge way. And now I'm not so sure. DeMarco and Seth could both provide some legit rest and off time for both Caleb and RJ. And if you've got four guards whom you trust in all of them, that's some great news for Hubert Davis. We hear a lot about Baylor being the best 3-guard lineup you could see in the country. I think the Tar Heels are going to be right there with RJ, Caleb, and probably Seth over the course of the season is going to be the better of he and DeMarco. But absolutely, I think DeMarco could do some Nate Britt type things. That's a nice thought there, Joey. All right, let's scroll through the chat and see what else we got. Here's been a big question this offseason. This is coming from Rob M. I'd imagine Davis, Coach Davis, that is going to employ a much larger rotation this year. Trimble and Nickel are too good to keep on the bench. This has been one of the main wonderments this offseason. Is what we saw from Coach Davis's rotation last year emblematic of what he will do throughout his career? Or is it just based on the personnel he had last year? Remember, it's just a small sample size, just that 1 year. And so what are we going to see? Well, we saw some tonight that there is more reliable depth already, both in terms of returning guys who have some minutes and in terms of freshmen who are more ready to contribute this year than Dontrez and DeMarco were right out of the gate last year. And so clearly Seth Trimble is going to see time. As we talked about earlier in this chat, Tyler Nichols seems to have earned himself minutes. And don't forget, Puff wasn't even playing tonight. He's on the shelf with his knee stuff. Justin McKoy, probably not going to be high up in that rotation, but man, you got to think that through the early part of the non-conference, we're going to see 9, 10, maybe 11 guys get at least some legit minutes, maybe 5 or so a game. And then obviously that'll tighten up as we get into ACC play, but definitely Rob M. I think we're going to see more of a rotation this year. Rob, and then another one from Rob, is Puff good enough to play over Trimble or Nickel? Absolutely. And keep in mind from last year, Puff Johnson, outside of the Iron Five, is the one that Coach Davis trusts the most. His savvy, his basketball IQ, his intangibles, the things he does when he's healthy and ready to go. Absolutely. He is good enough to play over Trimble or Nickel, but they're all going to bring different things, right? Like Puff is a better defender than Nickel is. Trimble is an insanely athletic guard, not a great shooter yet, but does all the other stuff. And so they each bring different things to the table, but that's a great question. Let's keep looking through here for some other, Quasi Fresh asks, did Trimble show out? I'm excited about him. He certainly had some what I would call poised moments for what you would expect for a freshman. And so I definitely think so. He had an athletic dunk, had some nice layups in transition, had some assists. I think we already talked about 5 assists to just 2 turnovers. And so, yeah, I'm right with that there. By the way, let me give you a quick live read. This episode of Locked on Tar Heels, this postcast, is brought to you by Underdog, the easiest place to spice up the college football season. It's easy to get started and easy to play while you watch your favorite team, the Tar Heels, tomorrow night, homecoming, hosting Pitt. In fact, I've created my own account with Underdog, and while who knows what's going to be on Underdog for Carolina Pitt tomorrow night, make sure you check that out. Get some good over-unders on it. You can go to Underdog to make your picks just like I will. It's easy to play and available in over 30 states. Pick between 2 and 5 players across any team, not just the Tar Heels, and decide if they will finish higher or lower than the number given. It's one of the easiest fantasy games to play out there, and you can win cold hard cash in a single game. So sign up with promo code Locked On, just one word, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On, all one word. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. All right, let's keep scrolling down through here and see what other questions we have. Scrolling through. Can we expect Dunn and Trimble to get a lot of minutes this year? My suggestion all offseason has been that Trimble will get more than Dunn, and I still believe that to be the case, although Dunn has earned himself more than I thought he would get. He's showing more composure, more readiness to go this year. His defense is good. He had 2 threes in this game. Let me make sure I am not lying about that. Yeah, 2 threes in this game. He had 3 threes all of last season. So yeah, Dunn's going to be in there getting some time. You can bet on that, but Trimble will get more. Now, another thing to watch is if RJ is out for any length of time, where he's not expected to be. Again, he is expected to start the first regular season game against UNC Wilmington, but that's where we're at with that. Man, questions, folks. Let's see questions. Chad Hicks, we talk about Boogie Fland being there tonight. Chad Hicks says Boogie was having a great time during the game. That's great to hear about that. Oh, here's a question. I'd love to hear folks' thoughts on this. Joey Inman asks, RJ or Tough Little Nugget? To me, they are so similar. I'm excited to see what RJ can bring this year. Man, good question there. A question. Did Jalen Washington get any minutes since he can stretch the floor? He absolutely can stretch the floor, has been hitting and shooting well, but no, he did not get minutes tonight. Why? Because he was not dressed out. He was one of 4 Tar Heels along with Justin McKoy, Puff Johnson and RJ Davis, who were out in this game. Washington is still getting into game shape, still rehabbing, and so it's going to be some time with him, but boy, he is going to be a very helpful addition to this team when he's ready to go. Joey asks, what is the deal with Dontrez? He was so hyped coming out of Kinston, close to where I live. Shouts to Kinston, North Carolina. And he just looks a little bit lost in the sauce out there. Well, Joey, I think part of it is that at this point, especially, that Dontrez is more of an athlete. Like, that's where he shines. He hit some shots tonight. What was he from the floor? 3 of 9. So yeah, not great efficiency, including a 3. But a lot of what he's going to do, it's like this Theo Pinson progression where there's a lot of other ways he can contribute by than just looking at the scoring. And so that's some of what we're expecting to see. Here's a good point. One area from Chad Hicks where I agree with this. Seth Trimble did show his freshman-ness a little bit tonight, is picked up a couple offensive fouls going too deep into the lane. They're going to watch film on that, and they'll get that ironed out and fixed. And Seth Trimble will he's going to show freshman things, right? That's what freshmen do. It takes a while to get to get more oriented to the game, to realize, oh, these defenders in college can pick up on those things and stop me, whereas a lot of the high school competition couldn't. But the good news for Seth Trimble is that he's got so many safety nets this year in people like RJ and Caleb ahead of him, where he can come out and hear some of those things on the bench and then get back in. Here's a question. This is a really interesting one from OG Nobly. Do you think the Heels will shoot a better percentage from 3 this season? And thank you. OG says you sound a lot better than you did earlier today. Yeah. For those who watch the show all week long, or listen to the show all week long, my voice has been having issues all week long. Thankfully, I'm a little bit on the mend, but as you can tell, I'm still kind of down for the count. I've got all sorts of water with me. I'm chugging from some Fuzzies cups. I do think I predicted this offseason that Carolina would have a better 3-point percentage this season. I think it's going to continue to climb. Last year was already one of the best in team history. I think Carolina is also going to continue to climb in their free throw percentage. Obviously, trading out Brady, Manek out and Pete Nance in is going to hurt, but I think you're going to see leaps from other people. Plus, you get Tyler Nickel, who has already shown, and you've seen him to be a great 3-point shooter. Everything Coach Davis has said about Jalen Washington is that he is the best positional shooting big he has seen coming out of high school. And so I do expect Carolina to shoot a better 3-point percentage this year. Take a couple more questions. We're going to spend just about 4 more minutes together. Again, if you're just coming in, Carolina 101, Johnson C. Smith 40 in Carolina's lone exhibition game. Excuse me, of the season. We got about 10 days, until the first regular season game. Joey Inman says, Isaac, can you drop the link to where you got that photo of all the championship years? That's dope. This photo up here behind me, I will have to find it. My wife found that on Etsy, but I will tweet that out in just a little bit. In fact, if somebody could tweet at me, that'll remind me to do it when I get off of the live stream. Thank you so much for that. Ryan what's up, Ryan Sellers? Good to see you, brother. He says, how about Coach Davis tonight? He had the guys ready at the tip and looked just like he did during the final 4 games. And this is a great point. I'm going to put this up on the stream. Because here's the truth. Good teams come out in games like this and look fine. They do what they need to do. Excuse me. I'm so sorry, everyone. Struggling a little bit. And then they get out. Great teams get out to a big lead, and then they do what this team did and go on a 25-0 run in the second half. What did I say? 33-4 in the final 12 minutes of the game. Yeah, 33-4 in the final 12 minutes. And that's exactly what you needed to happen. And so Ryan is absolutely right. Coach Davis is locked in because he knows that if there is a single off night for these Tar Heels, they have such a big target on their chests. Everyone is coming after the Tar Heels. And so Coach Davis knows, the returners know that the Tar Heels have to be ready to go night in and night out. And that starts in games like this. This is what great teams do, exactly what the Tar Heels did tonight. Great point, Ryan. Joe Jones wants to know, did Will Shaver get minutes? He did. Will Shaver played 11 minutes of the game, 2 points, just 1 field goal, had 3 rebounds in the game, had some nice defense. Let me open up Carolina's home stats a little bigger so I can see all of his stuff. I thought so. Had a block in the game, no turnovers. Listen, I haven't even brought that up. Carolina only had 10 turnovers tonight. And you think about that, that's in a game without RJ. That's in an exhibition game where you expect some sloppiness. Again, this is a great sign from a great team doing the things you need to do. Yes. Okay. If there's any other questions, pop them in. We're just about to hop off. But once again, Carolina 101, Johnson C. Smith 40. We've got about 10 days till Carolina takes the court versus UNC Wilmington for the start of the regular season. Let me run you back through a few of the stats. Caleb Love led all scorers, 20 points, 7 of 14 from the floor, 4 of 9 from 3. 8 assists. Holy smokes, you love it. Was getting on the floor after the ball. Armando Bacot had a double-double in the first half, 10 points and 12 rebounds, finishes with 12 and 20. Who else was in double figures? You had Pete Nance, second leading scorer, 19 points, 8 of 13 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. We talked about his 3-point shot, but had 6 rebounds, and that's great. Seth Trimble was the fourth Tar Heel in double digits, had 11. Tyler Nickel had 9 points, almost got to double digits. His shot just looks good. He doesn't hesitate. He's got that Brady Manek quickness going, and you love to see it. Again, just 10 turnovers for the Tar Heels. Nobody had more than 2. That's spread out. Really, really good stuff there from Carolina. All right, folks. It has been great to be together. We'll talk about this game in a more official way on Tuesday's show. Monday's show is going to be the recap from whatever happens against Pitt tomorrow night on the gridiron. Go Tar Heels. Go get that homecoming win and keep going forward in the Coastal Division. You love to see Carolina getting on the floor and getting a 71-point victory in this. And folks, it's going to be a good year. Buckle up. I can't wait to do these postcasts with you after as many games as we possibly can. This is Isaac Shade reminding you that it is always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow after the football game, peace.